What's up, guys? So today we're going to start on a new project, one that I'm pretty excited for and that I've had a few people kind of request, and that is a guitar kit build. So I've got the PRS set neck guitar kit here from GuitarFetish. If you're not familiar with GuitarFetish.com, it's just another guitar parts supplier, fairly standard and fairly inexpensive. So this is one of the more cost-effective kits that I've seen. It kind of remains to be seen what we're looking at for quality. We're going to go through that together, do a quick inspection of it, make sure that we've got all the parts. I haven't actually gone through the bag yet. And then we'll start getting into how to go about building and finishing this kit. But yeah, first step is going to be to go through and make sure we've got all the stuff, make sure the neck fits nice and snug, and take a look at what we're dealing with for quality. So let's get started on that. So kind of first things first here, let's double check that neck fit. Now this has a little number 4 written right on the back here, and there's a 4 written in there as well. Obviously they build these things in bulk, so I'm hoping that that means that they've already been tested and matched up to each other, but let's take a quick look. Alright, so that seems to fit in there fairly snug. I'm happy with that. Should be able to pick it up by the neck, which we can. That's good too. Yeah, not too bad. There's a tiny little gap on the side here, which we'll deal with at some point. So overall, I'm pretty happy with that first little element. It seems that they got some glue in around the neck pocket here. I'm not sure what they were gluing. It might have been when they put on the binding. I may have to sand that off when I go to finish this, but I probably won't, because I think I'm going to do an opaque finish on the back here. So let's take a look at the body here and what we're dealing with for quality. Alright, here's the body. It's got a flame maple top. Well, a flame maple top is kind of an exaggeration. It's got a flame maple veneer on it that it would appear is literally paper thin. This was one of the main selling points that they advertised when I checked out the website for this, and something that I was fairly excited for. I don't have any guitars with flame maple on them actually, but if you look a little closer here, you can see that when they were finishing this, they actually sanded right through it in at least one spot there. Which worries me somewhat, because in order to do a nice stain job on this, I like to apply a stain, or I would like to apply a dye and then sand it back a bit and then apply whatever finish I'm doing over top. And I'm kind of nervous that I'm going to sand right through this stuff since it's clearly very thin. I mean, if you look in the pocket here, it's pretty much literally a piece of maple paper. Also got some issues with the binding. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. It's got kind of some nicks and gouges and marks in it there, so that's not too great either. What I might end up doing, oh yeah, we're sanded through the flame maple here as well. So what I might end up doing is just kind of forgetting about the fact that it's got a binding, because that's not really important to me, and doing an opaque finish on the back, which is mahogany, and bringing that opaque finish all the way up the sides and into a little bit of a burst around the outside here to kind of cover up where the flame maple doesn't quite make it to the edge. It's not what I wanted to do, but that's how I'm going to kind of deal with that problem. So as I mentioned, this is a fairly inexpensive kit, and kind of need to be aware that when you're buying an inexpensive kit like this, things like this can happen. I also am going to have to drill out the holes for the bridge. Some kits you don't have to do that, and this one you do. Alright, let's take a look at the neck. So this is the neck. There's nothing really done to the headstock, so I'm going to have an opportunity to make this my own by shaping it, which doesn't bother me. I'll have to decide if I'm going to do an opaque or transparent finish on here. Looks like it had some gouging in it and they filled it and stuff, so it's not beautiful. I might do an opaque finish for it. Also could use some filling up here. The nut is just a piece of black plastic. I've never seen one quite like this actually, but oh well. I might replace that, we'll see. Might set it up like this first and then replace it later if necessary. Now I'm not sure what they did when they put in the inlays, which are actually kind of cool. Very interesting little inlays they've got there. But they've got burn marks on them, or some kind of junk, and they're not perfectly flat. They're not completely flush with the rosewood, I believe it is. So I might have to go in and sand those and try and clean that up a little bit, which is okay because I'm going to oil the fretboard anyway. All of the finishing on here is very rough. They do say rough finishing, so that's fine. And I don't mind doing some sanding, but it is quite rough. The ends of the frets are a little bit sharp, but not too bad. Could be worse. I might just take a piece of sandpaper along the edge here, high grit, and pull those off. You can kind of probably hear my skin catching on there. So that'll be one of the things that we do to this as well. Look at what we've got for parts here. Hopefully they're all in there. Interesting packaging method. Alright, so we've got some super attractive, kind of scratched up but not too bad, beige plates. I'm probably going to paint those because I'm not particularly fond of this color. I did a tutorial about how to paint plastic parts, so I'll probably put that into practice. That doesn't really fit. Am I doing this wrong? I mean, it's pretty clearly supposed to go on like that, or like that, because this is the shiny side. It doesn't. It does not go in there. If I flip it over, it gets very close here. But that's, well, maybe the shiny side's in. Yeah, the beveling's on this side. So it looks like the beveling here to let the screws go in is on the dull side, and then we've got the glossy side here that looks like it's finished to be on the outside, and it isn't. So that's interesting. Luckily I'm going to be painting this, so I'm not too upset about it. It still doesn't quite fit, but that's something that I can fix just by sanding a little bit off of this plate, which will be easier than sanding the wood. So we have the plate, it just doesn't quite fit. That's interesting. Maybe I'm wrong here, because this one's also beveled on the dull side. Oh, and what do you know, this one also doesn't quite fit into the pocket that's routed out for it. So that's stellar. I'm less pleased with this guitar kit than I had hoped to be. Oh, there's glue all over my hands. Less pleased than I had hoped to be, but oh well. We at least have the plates. A little bit of modification isn't the end of the world. Strings. They gave me strings all wrapped together, not packaged the way that strings normally come. But, you know, whatever, strings. A guitar cable. Yes, a guitar cable. I have one of those already, but I imagine it's probably better. Okay. There's our stop tail, which will go back here somewhere, and a bunch of washers. Alright. Tuning pegs. Is that plastic? Oh, there's some plastic covering a small portion of the tuning peg. So we've got tuning pegs. Let's make sure that we've got enough of them. They're just kind of sitting loose in here, which is interesting, and accounts for why they're kind of Messy probably, but that's fine. Oh, that's interesting. Alright. Just trying to make sure that I've got 3 and 3 here, because they are different, and that headstock requires a 3 and 3 setup. Alright, they're all there. I was considering changing the tuning pegs, putting in nicer ones. After seeing how all of this is looking so far, I find it unlikely that I'm going to bother with that. Probably just going to keep these ones on here and call it a cheap guitar. Here's our bridge. I'll have to measure that out to make sure that I'm drilling my peg spots in the right place there. Got our, what is it, 2 or 3? 3 position switch. That's already clearly had something soldered to it. And not very well. Solder is supposed to be shiny. When it cools, that's a sign that it was applied at the right temperature and done properly. This solder is quite dull, so that's not ideal, but hopefully something that we can fix without too much too much of an issue. Here's our plate for over top of the truss rod. I might actually make a new one of those out of metal. Stop tail peg number 1. Bridge peg number 1. Jack and jack plate. Where are the rest of my pegs? Oh, they are stuck to the bottom of the pickups. That makes sense. Stop tail peg number 2 and bridge peg number 2. So far, so good. All right. Electronics. Well, we have some wire, so that's good. I don't like buying wire, it's a pain. And it looks like those might already be cut to the right length. We'll double check that when the time comes. This is an absolute pile of small components, some of which, very few of which are in bags. The rest, all the screws and stuff, are just kind of sitting there. So that's kind of shitty. I'm a little bit hesitant to dump this out. I guess I'm gonna have to. We've got our 4 dials. Good. So if you're kind of doing the same thing, these are some of the things that you need to be looking for. Rhythm and treble plate there. I really hope I don't have to use that. I mean, it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it's ugly, so I don't want to use it. I don't know if these are actually going to hold the strap in place. You know, I find it unlikely. This is terrible. Those aren't great. Luckily, strap buttons aren't expensive. I don't think this thing is pre-drilled for them, so that's fine. And yeah, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it and decide if I actually want to do those. Here are our potentiometers. So we've got the 2 A's, our volumes, and the 2 B's, our tone. And a little green capacitor for each one. Now if you want to change your guitar's tone, changing capacitors is a really easy way to do that. I'll probably try those ones because I've got them, see how they go, and make that decision from there. Huh. What the hell? Okay, I need to figure out what these are. They look like... Yeah, okay, these go with the tuning pegs. I did have that right. So 6 of those. It's the other component for the tuning peg. And then a bunch of screws and washers. Excellent. So far it looks like we've got everything. Finally we have our pickups. Just a cheap kind of no-name two conductor humbuckers. So some humbuckers, you look at them and they've got 5 wires coming out. These have 2. Hot and ground, I'm presuming. And by presuming I mean that's really the only thing it could be. There's no option here to coil split or phase change or anything like that unless you know what you're doing, and you can change this to one with more conductors. Now, there are ways of doing that. I'm not going to because it's a little bit complicated and I'm not particularly good at wiring. What I might do, because I just have these cheap black pickup surrounds, is I might end up direct mounting these. What the hell? They don't really fit into the cavities properly. Okay, great. Well, I might end up direct mounting the pickups because I like that better and it looks better. And a lot of people, or a few people, would argue that it affects how the guitar sounds just a little bit. I really don't want to get into that discussion right now, so please don't go off on me for saying that. We'll cover that stuff someday, I'm sure. Anyway, these pickups don't fit into the cavities as they are right now. So that's not ideal, but I suppose we'll have to find a way to deal with that as well. How exciting. Alright, so it looks like all the parts are there. The neck fits well on the bright side. Yeah, I guess my overall view of this right now is positive. I'm positive I got what I paid for, and I'm pretty positive I wouldn't do it again. But if you're looking for a very inexpensive kit, this is one. So we're going to call that the end of this video. I was just looking through and making sure that everything was there and kind of introducing you to the new series here that we're starting. In the next one, I will look at probably drilling out the holes for the bridge and the stop tail and doing a little bit of fix-up work on some of the sanding and stuff that's in there. And we'll see how long that takes and what it breaks down to. But we're going to do the whole series here, get this thing fixed up and finished up, and hopefully it doesn't take me longer than making an actual guitar would because of all the stuff that needs to be dealt with. And we'll cover how to finish flame maple in this series as well, obviously, although it's not the best way to finish an actual piece of flame maple. It'll be kind of a modified way of doing it for a very thin piece. So that's what we're up to now. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and we'll actually get this thing going. See you next time.